The cargo ship Sejong drifted through the black emptiness of space, 6 months into a journey that should have been boring. Captain Park Do-hyun liked boring. Boring meant no one died. Boring meant he could sit in his chair, drink his coffee, and watch the stars slide past the window like slow-moving fish in a dark ocean. But the universe rarely let Do-hyun stay bored for long. The signal came at 0300 hours, when most of the crew was asleep. A faint pulse of light on the communication screen, blinking red like a dying heartbeat. Do-hyun set down his coffee and leaned forward. The computer translated the signal into words, and those words made his stomach turn cold. Emergency. Plague colony. Harem 4. 40,000 survivors. No food, no medicine. Children dying. Please help. Anyone, please. The message repeated itself over and over, getting weaker each time. Do-hyun checked the coordinates and felt his hope sink like a stone. Zone 17, the quarantine zone, the place the Galactic Council had sealed off 6 months ago and forbidden anyone to enter. He called his senior officers to the bridge. First Officer Yoon Ji-soo arrived first, her uniform perfect even at this hour. She was a former military intelligence officer, calm in every crisis, and Do-hyun trusted her judgment more than his own. She read the signal without expression, but her jaw tightened. Chief Engineer Kwon Tae-woo came next, still pulling on his jacket, his hair sticking up in every direction. He was young, brilliant, and had a problem with authority that had gotten him kicked out of 3 different postings. But he could fix anything, and on a ship this old, that mattered more than manners. Last came Medical Officer Shin Mirai, the youngest of them all. This was her first deep space assignment, and she still had that look in her eyes, the look of someone who believed she could save everyone if she just tried hard enough. Do-hyun remembered having that look once. He hoped she could keep it longer than he had. Zone 17, Ji-soo said quietly. The Valorian plague colony. 40,000 people, Mirai whispered. They're still alive. Barely, Do-hyun said. The signal is weak. I don't think they have much time left. Tae-woo crossed his arms. The council sealed that zone. Anyone who goes in gets shot. No trial, no questions, just boom. He made an explosion gesture with his hands. I know the rules, Do-hyun said. So what are we doing here? Tae-woo asked. Having a moment of silence before we fly away? Do-hyun looked at his crew one by one. He had served with soldiers and merchants, cowards and heroes. He had learned to read people the way Tae-woo read engines, by listening to what they didn't say. Ji-soo's face was blank, but her hands were tight at her sides. She was already calculating routes into the zone, he knew. Tae-woo was pretending not to care, but he hadn't made a single joke yet. And Mirai was looking at the signal like it was a patient bleeding out on her table. I'm going to contact Galactic Command, Do-hyun said. Request permission to assist. They'll say no, Ji-soo said. Then we'll know where we stand. He opened a channel to the nearest council relay station. The response came faster than he expected, which meant someone important was paying attention. The face that appeared on screen was not human. It was Counselor Veth, a high-ranking member of the Galactic Council. Her species had smooth gray skin and eyes like black marbles, and when she spoke, her voice was flat and cold. Captain Park, we have detected your position near Zone 17. You are ordered to change course immediately. Counselor, we've received a distress signal from Harem 4. There are 40,000 survivors requesting emergency aid. I'm asking for permission to... Denied. Do-hyun paused. Counselor, these are civilians. Children. They're dying of starvation and disease. The signal indicates the plague may be treatable with basic... The quarantine is absolute, Veth interrupted. Any ship entering Zone 17 will be fired upon without warning. Any crew that survives will be arrested and tried for violating galactic health protocols. The penalty is life imprisonment on a penal colony. Do you understand, Captain? I understand that you're asking me to let 40,000 people die. I am not asking. I am informing. The Valorian colony has been classified as a containment loss. Further discussion is unnecessary. Veth leaned closer to the screen. Go back to your route, Captain. Deliver your cargo. Forget this signal. That is not a suggestion. The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the engines and the soft blinking of the distress signal, still repeating its desperate plea. Containment loss, Mireille said softly. They're talking about people like their cargo that's spoiled. That's how the council works, Jisoo said. Everything is numbers, acceptable losses, strategic sacrifices. Taewoo snorted. Fancy words for murder. Do-hyun stood up from his chair and walked to the main window. Outside, the stars burned in the darkness, billions of them, each one surrounded by planets and moons and colonies full of people living their small lives. The galaxy was vast and cold, and most of the time it didn't care whether you lived or died. But Do-hyun cared. If we do this, he said without turning around, we become criminals. We lose our licenses, our ship, our freedom. The council will hunt us. We'll never work in legitimate shipping again. He turned to face them. I won't order anyone to come with me. This has to be a choice. You're going, Jisoo said. It wasn't a question. Yes, she nodded slowly. Then I'm going too. Someone has to keep you from doing something stupid. Taewoo grinned. I've been waiting my whole life for a good reason to tell the council to go to hell. This seems like a pretty good one. All eyes turned to Mireille. She was the youngest, the one with the most to lose, the one who had just started her career. Her hands were shaking slightly, but when she looked up, her eyes were steady. There are children dying, she said. I became a doctor to save people. If I fly away now, what was the point? Do-hyun felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride, maybe. Or hope. Then we're agreed, he said. Taewoo, plot a course into Zone 17. Find us a way past the defense drones. Already working on it, Taewoo said, moving to his console. It's going to be rough. I'll probably have to burn out the main engines to get us through the sensor gap. Can you fix them after? Maybe. Probably. 60% chance. Good enough. Jisoo brought up a map of the zone. Once we're inside, we'll have maybe 6 hours before the council realizes we're there. After that, they'll send ships. Then we work fast, Do-hyun said. Mirai was already heading to the medical bay. I'll prepare everything we have. Antibiotics, water purifiers, nutrition packs. It won't be enough for 40,000, but it's a start. Do-hyun watched his crew move with purpose, each of them knowing what they were risking, each of them choosing to risk it anyway. This was why he loved humans. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but because sometimes, when the universe told them to look away, they refused. He sat back down in his captain's chair and looked at the distress signal one more time. Hold on, he said quietly, to the thousands of people he had never met. We're coming. The Sejong turned toward the forbidden zone and began to fly. The Sejong went dark as it approached the quarantine perimeter. Taewoo had shut down every system that made noise or heat. Lights, heating, even life support for a few terrible minutes. The ship drifted like a dead thing, cold and silent, sliding toward the sensor gap he had found in the defense network. Do-hyun sat in his chair and held his breath. Around him, his crew did the same. The defense drones were everywhere. Floating in the darkness like metal sharks, their sensors swept back and forth looking for anything alive, anything moving, anything that didn't belong. One wrong signal, and they would fire. The Sejong would become dust and debris, and no one would ever know they had tried. Taewoo's hands moved over his console, making tiny adjustments. Sweat dripped down his face. Come on, he whispered. Come on, come on. Come on. The ship slipped between two drones, close enough that Do-hyun could see the weapons on their hulls. For a moment, nothing happened. Then they were through, past the perimeter, inside Zone 17. Tae-woo let out a breath that sounded like a sob. We're in. Firing engines now. The ship shuddered as the engines came back to life. Warning lights flashed across every screen, damage reports, system failures, things breaking that shouldn't break. Tae-woo had pushed the Sejong harder than it was built to go, and now it was paying the price. How bad? Do-hyun asked. Bad enough, Tae-woo said. Main engines are burned out. I can fix them, but I need time. 8 hours, maybe 10. We might not have 10 hours. Then I'll work faster. Jisoo pulled up the navigation charts. HFY 4 is 2 hours away at current speed. We should arrive just before dawn, local time. What do we know about the colony? Mireille asked. Population was 60,000 before the plague, Jisoo said. Mining community, mostly. They extracted rare minerals from the moon's crust and sold them to council traders. 6 months ago, a disease broke out. The council declared a quarantine and pulled out all personnel. No ships in or out. No communication. They were just left. Mireille's face was pale. For 6 months? The council said the plague was too dangerous. Airborne transmission, no cure, 90% mortality rate. Jisoo paused. That's what they said. You don't believe them, Do-hyun said. I believe the council lies when it's convenient. And I believe they had reasons to want the Valorians to disappear. Do-hyun didn't ask what those reasons were. He would find out soon enough. The 2 hours passed slowly. Mireille organized her medical supplies again and again, checking everything twice. Tae-woo disappeared into the engine room and didn't come out. Jisoo sat at her console and studied the colony maps, planning where to land, where to set up aid stations, how to move supplies as fast as possible. Do-hyun just watched the window and waited. When HFY 4 finally appeared, it looked like a wound in space. The moon's surface was brown and gray, scarred by mining operations, dotted with structures that had once been homes and factories and schools. But even from orbit, Do-hyun could see that something was wrong. Half the buildings were dark. Whole sections of the colony had collapsed. Smoke rose from places where there shouldn't be smoke. I'm reading one active power signature, Jisoo said quietly. Central District. That must be where the survivors are gathered. Take us down, Do-hyun said. The Sejong descended through the thin atmosphere and landed on a cracked concrete pad near the colony's center. When the engines shut off, the silence was heavy and complete. Do-hyun opened the main hatch and stepped outside. The air smelled like dust and decay. The streets were empty, but not the way empty streets were supposed to feel. There was something else here, something that made his skin crawl. Then he realized what it was. Bodies. They were everywhere, lying in doorways, slumped against walls, curled up in the middle of the road like they had just lain down and stopped. They had been dead for weeks, maybe months. The dry air had preserved them, turned them into hollow shells that stared at nothing with empty eyes. Mireille made a small sound behind him. Do-hyun reached back and took her arm. Focus on the living, he said gently. We're here for the living. She nodded, but her face was gray. They walked toward the power signature, past broken windows and collapsed roofs, past playgrounds with no children and markets with no food. The colony had died slowly, piece by piece, and no one had come to help. The central shelter was a large building that had once been a community hall. Now it was surrounded by makeshift barriers built from furniture and debris. Armed guards stood at the entrance, Valorians, tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They raised their weapons when they saw the humans approaching. Stop, one of them said. His voice was weak. No closer. We don't know what you are. Do-hyun raised his hands. We're humans. We came from outside the zone. We're here to help." The Valorians looked at each other. They seemed confused, like they didn't understand the words. "Help?" one of them repeated. "The council sent you?" "No, we came on our own." "But why?" Before Do-hyun could answer, the door of the shelter opened, and an old Valorian stepped out. He was ancient. His blue skin faded to almost white, his body bent with age. But his eyes were sharp and clear, and when he looked at Do-hyun, there was something in his gaze that might have been hope. "I am Elder Korath," he said. "I speak for my people. You say you came to help, but no one helps strangers. Not in this galaxy. What do you want from us?" Do-hyun lowered his hands. "Nothing. We heard your distress signal. We came. That signal has been broadcasting for 3 months. No one came. We came." Korath studied him for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. "Enter. See what the council has done to us. Then tell me again that you came to help." Inside the shelter, the air was thick and warm. Hundreds of Valorians lay on mats and blankets spread across the floor. Most of them were children or elderly. The young and strong had died first. Trying to find food, trying to fix the water systems, trying to do something. Now only the weakest remained. Mirai rushed to the nearest patient, a young child with sunken cheeks and dull eyes. She scanned him with her medical device and made a sound of surprise. "This isn't what they said," she whispered. "The plague, it's not airborne. It's waterborne. It's in the water supply, and it's—" She looked up at Do-hyun. "Captain, this is treatable. Basic filtration and standard antibiotics. We can cure this. We can cure all of them." Do-hyun felt something cold settle in his chest. "If it's that simple, why didn't the council—" "Because they didn't want to," Jisoo said. She was standing by a window, staring at nothing. "Captain, before the plague, the Valorians voted to leave the Galactic Council. They wanted to form their own trade alliance, set their own prices for their minerals. The council was going to lose billions. So they let them die," Mirai said. "They let children die over money?" "Over control," Jisoo said. "It's always about control." Korath had listened to this without expression. Now he spoke, his voice tired. "We knew. We knew they would punish us for our independence, but we thought they would blockade us, sanction us. We never believed they would simply watch us die." He looked at Do-hyun. "Why did you come, human? Your council will punish you for this. Your people will call you criminals. You have nothing to gain and everything to lose. Why?" Do-hyun thought about the question. He thought about his crew, risking their lives and their futures for people they had never met. He thought about the bodies in the streets, the children in this room, the signal that had called out for 3 months with no answer. "Because someone had to," he said. Korath stared at him. For a moment, Do-hyun thought the old Valorian was going to argue, to demand a better answer, a logical answer, something that made sense in a galaxy where everyone looked out for themselves. But instead, Korath did something unexpected. He smiled. "Humans," he said softly, "you are either the wisest species in the galaxy or the most foolish." "Probably both," Do-hyun said. "Now let us help your people. We don't have much time." The work began immediately. Tai-Wu emerged from the engine room and started repairing the colony's water treatment systems, working through the night without rest. Mirai set up a medical station and began treating patients one by one, teaching Valorian volunteers how to administer antibiotics and monitor vital signs. Jisoo coordinated supply distribution, making sure food and water reached everyone who needed it. And through it all, the children of Harem 4 began to recover. It was slow at first. A little more color in their skin, a little more light in their eyes. Then faster. Children sitting up, children asking for food, children laughing for the first time in months. Mirai was treating a young Valorian girl named Pelly when the child grabbed her hand. "Will you stay?" Pelly asked. "Will you stay until we're better?" Mirai looked at the small blue hand holding hers. She thought about the council fleet that was probably already on its way, the punishment waiting for her when she got home, all the logical reasons she should have stayed on course and delivered her cargo like a good, obedient citizen. "Yes," she said. "I'll stay." Outside the shelter, Do-Yun stood watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the council knew what they had done. Somewhere out there, ships were being sent to stop them. But for now, in this moment, children were being saved. That was enough. The news spread faster than Do-Hyun expected. It started with a single transmission, a Valorian survivor sending a message to family in another system, telling them what the humans had done. That family told others. Those others told more. Within 2 days, the story of the Sejong had reached every corner of human space and beyond. A cargo ship defying the Galactic Council, a crew risking everything to save dying children. A plague that wasn't really a plague, and a quarantine that was really a death sentence. The humans were calling them heroes. The Council was calling them criminals. Do-Hyun tried not to think about either word. He had work to do. On Harem 4, the situation was improving but still desperate. They had treated the most critical patients and restored clean water to part of the colony, but 40,000 people needed more than one ship could provide. They needed food, medicine, shelter materials, transport. They needed an evacuation. "We can't do this alone," Jisoo said on the 3rd morning. She stood in the shelter's communication room, watching data scroll across a cracked screen. "We've used half our medical supplies. Food will last maybe another week. And if the council sends ships before we can get these people out..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Do-Hyun rubbed his eyes. He hadn't slept in 2 days. "What about other human ships? Anyone responding to the situation?" "More than responding." Jisoo pulled up a new display. "Captain, look at this." The screen showed a map of the zone's border. On the outside, dozens of ship signatures blinked like fireflies. Human ships, cargo vessels, transport ships, even a few private yachts. All of them gathered at the edge of Zone 17, waiting. "They want to help," Jisoo said. "But the defense drones are still active. They can't get through." Do-Hyun felt something shift in his chest. He had hoped other humans would care. He had hoped, but he hadn't been sure. Now here they were, ship after ship, ready to risk the same punishment he had risked. "We need to get them inside," he said. "How? We barely made it through ourselves, and that burned out our engines. We can't ask them to..." "I can help with that," Tae-woo said. He was standing in the doorway, covered in grease and grime, looking like he hadn't slept either. But there was a strange light in his eyes, the look he got when he had solved an impossible problem. "The defense drones," he said. "They're networked. They share sensor data through a central relay station on the perimeter. If we can hack that station and create a gap in the coverage, ships can fly through safely." Jisoo frowned. "Can you hack a council defense network?" "No," Tae-woo admitted. "But I know someone who might be able to help." Admiral Yoon Sung-ho was the commander of the Human Border Fleet. He was also Do-Hyun's former commanding officer from the border conflicts 20 years ago. They hadn't spoken since then. There had been disagreements, harsh words, the kind of break that doesn't heal. But Tae-woo had served under Sung-ho briefly, and he knew things about the admiral that official records didn't show. "He's not what people think," Tae-woo said. "He follows orders because he has to, but he's not happy about it. He wanted to be a doctor before they drafted him into the military. His daughter died in a colony evacuation that the council delayed for political reasons." Tae-woo shrugged. "He might help, or he might report us and end this whole thing. Only one way to find out." Do-hyun sent the message himself. He kept it simple. No excuses, no justifications, just facts. 40,000 survivors. Treatable disease. Ships waiting to help. A gap in the defense network was possible if someone provided the access codes. He didn't expect a reply. He got one within the hour. Admiral Sung-ho's face appeared on the screen, older than Do-hyun remembered, with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked at Do-hyun for a long moment without speaking. "You always were a stubborn fool," Sung-ho said finally. "I told you that 20 years ago. I see you haven't changed." "People are dying, Admiral. People are always dying somewhere, Captain. The question is whether saving them is worth destroying everything else." "Is that a no?" Sung-ho was quiet. In the background, Do-hyun could see the Admiral's bridge, officers moving back and forth, screens showing fleet positions and sensor data. Sung-ho was taking a risk just by talking to him. "I can't help you," Sung-ho said. "I'm an officer of the fleet. I follow orders." Do-hyun felt his hope sink. "I understand. However," Sung-ho leaned closer to the screen. "I've been having some security issues lately. Classified information has been leaking from my systems. Patrol schedules, access codes, that sort of thing. Very embarrassing. I've been meaning to fix it, but I'm so busy these days." He paused. "I probably won't get around to it for another few hours." Do-hyun understood. "Thank you, Admiral." "Don't thank me. If you get caught, I never spoke to you. If you survive, don't contact me again. We're not friends, Captain. We're just—" He seemed to search for the right word. "We're just humans." The screen went dark. 30 minutes later, the access codes arrived through an anonymous channel. Taewoo used them to open a gap in the defense network, and 12 human ships flew through into Zone 17. They came with everything they could carry: medical supplies, food, water purifiers, temporary shelters, transport capacity. They came with doctors and engineers and volunteers, people who had dropped everything to help strangers on a dying moon. Do-hyun met them as they landed. The first captain to step off her ship was a woman named Baek Yoonji, who ran a small freight company out of the Mars colonies. She was short and tough-looking, with gray streaks in her black hair and a scar across her chin. "Captain Park," she said, shaking his hand, "heard you started a war with the Council. Figured I'd come join you." "It's not a war," Do-hyun said. "It's a rescue." "Same thing, sometimes." Yoonji looked around at the ruined colony. The survivors emerging from the shelter, the children staring at the ships with wide eyes. "Tell me what you need." More ships arrived over the next 2 days. Each one brought supplies and hope. The Valorians, who had been waiting to die for months, began to believe they might actually survive. But the Council was not silent. Counselor Veth appeared on every major news channel, her cold face filling screens across the galaxy. She spoke of human arrogance and lawless behavior. She spoke of the quarantine as a necessary sacrifice, the only way to prevent the plague from spreading to other worlds. She spoke of the danger these reckless humans pose to galactic stability, and she issued an ultimatum. "The humans in Zone 17 have 72 hours to withdraw," Veth announced. "All ships must exit the zone, and all survivors must remain on Harem 4 until the Council determines it is safe to lift the quarantine. Any humans who remain after the deadline will be arrested and prosecuted. Any resistance will be met with military force." She paused, and something like satisfaction flickered across her face. "The Council does not make threats. We make promises. You have been warned." The broadcast ended. In the shelter on Harem 4, Do-hyun stood with his crew and the other captains, all of them staring at the blank screen. 72 hours, Yoonji said. "That's not enough time to evacuate everyone." "That's the point," Jisoo said quietly. "They're not trying to let us save them. They're trying to make us choose. Save some and abandon the rest, or stay and be arrested while they send in ships to finish the job." "So what do we do?" Taewoo asked. Do-hyun looked around the room. He saw fear in some faces, anger in others. He saw people who had risked everything to be here, who were now being told it wasn't enough. He saw humans. "We have 72 hours, he said. "Then we figure out what comes next." Mirai stepped forward. "I'm not leaving them. Whatever happens." One by one, the other captains nodded. Yunji cracked her knuckles. "Guess we better get to work then." The 72 hours began. On the colony, the humans worked faster than they had ever worked before. They treated patients, repaired systems, organized evacuations for those who could travel. Children were loaded onto ships, then the elderly, then anyone healthy enough to make the journey. The ships flew out through the gap in the defense network, carrying survivors to human colonies that had agreed to take them in. But it wasn't fast enough. It could never be fast enough. 40,000 people, 72 hours. The math didn't work. On the second day, Do-hyun stood outside the shelter and watched the latest transport ship lift off. It was full of children, and as it rose into the sky, he saw small faces pressed against the windows, looking down at the moon that had almost been their grave. Korath stood beside him. "You will not save all of us," the old Valorian said. It wasn't a question. "No," Do-hyun admitted. "We won't." "Then why do you stay? Why not take who you can and go? Your council will destroy you if you remain." Do-hyun watched the ship disappear into the clouds. "Because maybe we can't save everyone. But we can try until the last second. And maybe—" He paused. "Maybe something will change." Korath was quiet for a moment. "You are a strange people," he said finally. "In Valorian culture, we do not sacrifice ourselves for strangers. We believe in logic, in calculation, in survival of those who deserve it. But you—" He shook his head. "You believe in something else." "We believe in each other," Do-hyun said. "Most of the time, anyway." The 72 hours passed, and on the edge of Zone 17, the Council battle fleet arrived. The Council fleet was massive. Do-hyun counted the ships from the Sejong's bridge, 20 warships, each one 10 times the size of his cargo vessel, bristling with weapons that could turn a moon to glass. They hung in space like a wall of metal and death, blocking the only exit from Zone 17. Against them, the humans had 14 ships, cargo vessels, transports, civilian craft, not a single weapon among them. "Well," Tae-woo said quietly, "we're dead." "Not yet," Do-hyun said. But he wasn't sure he believed it. Counselor Veth's face appeared on every screen in the human fleet. Her black eyes showed no emotion, no doubt, no mercy. "Human vessels," she said. "Your deadline has passed. You have violated galactic law, entered a quarantine zone, and endangered the health of the entire galaxy. You are ordered to power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." She paused, letting the words sink in. "This is your final warning." Do-hyun looked at his crew. Jisoo stood at her console, her hands steady on the controls. Tae-woo was at the engineering station, already working on something, probably another impossible plan. Mirai sat by the medical screens, watching the life signs of the patients still aboard their ship, the ones too sick to be moved. They were all waiting for him to speak. Do-hyun opened a channel to the Council fleet, but he also opened something else, a broadcast channel, wide open, sending to every ship, station, and colony in range, every communication relay in the sector. Every news network, every private receiver, everyone who was listening. "Counselor Veth," he said, "my name is Park Do-hyun, captain of the human vessel Sejong. I'm speaking to you, but I'm also speaking to everyone who can hear this, because I think they deserve to know the truth." Veth's expression flickered. "Captain, I advise you to—" "6 months ago." The Galactic Council declared a quarantine on this moon. They told the galaxy there was a deadly plague here, airborne and incurable, and that everyone on Harem 4 was already lost. They said they had no choice. They said it was necessary. He paused. They lied. Across the galaxy, people were watching. Do-Yun could feel it. Millions of eyes, millions of ears, all focused on this moment. The disease on Harem 4 is waterborne. It spreads through contaminated water supplies. It can be treated with basic filtration and standard antibiotics. We have been treating it for 3 days. The survival rate is over 90%. He held up a data chip. I'm transmitting all our medical records now. Every diagnosis, every treatment, every recovery, anyone can verify it. Veth's face was stone. Captain, this broadcast is illegal. I'm not finished. Do-Yun's voice was calm, but there was iron underneath. Before the plague, the Valorians voted to leave the Galactic Council. They wanted independence. The Council was going to lose control of their mining operations and billions in trade revenue. 1 month after that vote, the plague appeared. The Council sealed the zone, and 40,000 people were left to starve. He looked directly at the screen, directly at Veth. This wasn't a quarantine. It was an execution. And you watched it happen. Silence. Then Veth spoke, and her voice was ice. These are lies. Propaganda from a criminal trying to justify his crimes. The Council does not murder civilians. The Council maintains order. The Council protects the galaxy from chaos. Her eyes narrowed. You have endangered that order, Captain. You have proven that humans cannot be trusted to follow galactic law, and you will face the consequences. She turned to someone off-screen. All ships, prepare to fire. Do-Yun felt his heart stop. This was it. This was where they died. 14 ships full of people who had only wanted to save children burned to nothing in the darkness between stars. He thought about his crew. He thought about Mirai, who had never gotten to see Earth again. He thought about Tae-Woo, who had finally found something worth caring about. He thought about Jisoo, steady and loyal to the end. He thought about the Valorians still on Harem 4, who would watch the sky burn and know they were next. He closed his eyes, and then Jisoo spoke. Captain, look. He opened his eyes. On the sensor screen, something was happening at the zone's border. New signatures were appearing. Ships, dozens of them, jumping in from somewhere else. But they weren't Council ships. The first to arrive was a Thelian medical frigate, its hull marked with the symbols of the Healers Guild. Behind it came 2 Karathi cargo haulers, massive and slow, loaded with supplies. Then a Nemari science vessel, its silver hull shining in the starlight. More followed. Ships from species that had been Council members for centuries, species that had always followed the rules, always kept their heads down, always stayed quiet. They weren't entering Zone 17. They stopped at the border, forming a line. But they were watching. Cameras active, transmitters open, recording everything, witnesses. Counselor Veth stared at the new arrivals. For the first time, something like uncertainty crossed her face. This is a Council matter, she said. These other species have no jurisdiction here. They must withdraw. But the ships didn't move. Do-Hyun understood what was happening. The Council's power came from respect, from the belief that they were fair and just, that their rules protected everyone equally. If they destroyed the human ships now, with the whole galaxy watching, that belief would die. Every species would see what the Council really was. Not protectors, but tyrants willing to murder to maintain control. Veth was trapped. Counselor, Do-Hyun said quietly, you can fire on us. You can destroy our ships and kill our people and make us an example. But everyone will see. Everyone will know. And they'll ask themselves, if the Council did this to the humans, what will they do to us? Veth said nothing. Or, Do-hyun continued, you can let us finish what we started. Let us evacuate the survivors. Let us prove that compassion doesn't threaten order. It strengthens it. Let the galaxy see that the Council can admit when it's wrong. A long moment passed. The warships held their positions, weapons still armed. The witness ships waited at the border. The 14 human vessels floated in the middle, tiny and fragile, ready to die. Then Veth spoke. All ships, stand down. Her voice was flat, empty of everything. Weapons to holding status. We are reassessing the situation. One of her officers started to protest. Counselor, we can't just... I said stand down. Veth turned back to the screen. This is not over, Captain. The Council will investigate your claims. If they are found to be false, you will answer for it. And if they're found to be true? Do-hyun asked. Veth didn't answer. She cut the transmission. On the bridge of the Sejong, no one moved for a long moment. Then Tae-woo let out a breath that was half laugh, half sob. Did that actually work? It worked, Jisoo said, but she didn't smile. For now. Do-hyun looked at the witness ships still holding position at the border. The Thelians, the Karathi, the Namari. They hadn't entered the zone, hadn't broken any laws. But they had shown up. They had watched. Sometimes that was enough. He opened a channel to the other human ships. All vessels, this is Captain Park. We have a window. I don't know how long it will last. Let's use it. The evacuation continued through the night. Every human ship made run after run, carrying survivors out of the zone, past the Council fleet that sat silent and watching to safety beyond the border. The witness ships helped where they could, providing supplies and medical support, their crews working alongside humans they had never met. By morning, the last transport lifted off from Harem 4. It carried the final group of survivors, the sickest, the weakest, the ones who had been closest to death. Elder Korath was among them, along with young Peli, who refused to let go of Mirai's hand until the ship actually took off. Do-hyun stood on the landing pad and watched them go. The colony was empty now. The streets were still full of the dead, the buildings still broken and dark. But no one else would die here, not today. Jisoo walked up beside him. The Council fleet is withdrawing. They're calling it a tactical reassessment pending investigation. She paused. They're never going to admit they were wrong. No, Do-hyun agreed. But the galaxy saw what they did. That matters. Does it? Nothing will really change. The Council will still control everything. They'll find ways to punish the Valorians, punish us, punish anyone who helped. They don't forgive. Do-hyun thought about that. She was probably right. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, and they wouldn't let one group of humans challenge that. But he thought about the ships at the border, the Thelians, the Karathi, the Namari, species that had never questioned the Council before, now standing up and bearing witness. Something had shifted. Something small, maybe, but real. Change takes time, he said. Sometimes all you can do is plant the seed. Jisoo looked at him for a long moment. Then she almost smiled. You really believe that? I have to. They walked back to the Sejong together. Behind them, the empty colony sat under the gray sky, waiting for whatever came next. But the people were gone, and they were alive. The weeks after Harem 4 were strange ones. The Valorian survivors scattered across human space, taken in by colonies that had volunteered to host them. 40,000 people who had been waiting to die were now learning to live again, finding homes, rebuilding families, trying to understand a galaxy that had abandoned them and a species that had not. Elder Korath went to a colony on Europa, where the cold reminded him of his home. Before he left, he came to see Do-hyun one last time. They met in the Sejong's cargo bay. empty now except for a few crates and the echoes of everything they had carried. Korath moved slowly, still weak from the months of starvation, but his eyes were bright. "Captain Park," he said, "I have something for you." He held out a small object, a stone, smooth and dark, with veins of silver running through it like frozen lightning. It fit perfectly in the palm of his hand. "This is a bonding stone," Korath said. "In Valorian culture, it represents a promise that can never be broken, an alliance between peoples that will last forever, no matter what comes." He placed it in Do Yun's hand. "You saved my people, not because you had to, not because you gained anything. You saved us because you believed it was right. I do not fully understand this, but I honor it." Do Yun looked at the stone. It was warm, almost alive, pulsing with a faint inner light. "I didn't do it alone," he said. "My crew, the other ships, everyone who helped. Then it is a gift to all of you." Korath smiled, a strange expression on his alien face, but genuine. "My people will not forget. Wherever we go, whatever we become, we will remember that humans came for us when no one else would. And if you ever need us, for anything, we will come." He turned and walked away, moving toward the shuttle that would take him to his new home. At the door, he stopped and looked back. "Goodbye, Captain. May your paths lead to places worth going." Then he was gone. The political fallout hit hard and fast. Councillor Veth pushed for sanctions against humanity. Trade restrictions, travel bans, exclusion from council resources. She argued that humans were dangerous, unpredictable, unable to follow the rules that kept the galaxy stable. She wanted them punished, made into an example for any other species that might think of defying council authority. But something unexpected happened. Other species pushed back. The Thelians demanded an independent investigation into the Harem 4 quarantine. They wanted to know if the council had really left 40,000 civilians to die over a political dispute. The Karathi threatened to withdraw their trade agreements if humans were sanctioned without a fair hearing. The Nimari, who had always been quiet and obedient, released a public statement calling for reforms to council oversight. It wasn't a revolution. The council was too powerful for that, too deeply rooted, but it was a crack, a small one, but visible. For the first time in centuries, species were questioning whether the council's rules were fair, whether their power was earned, whether their authority was just. Veth got her sanctions, but they were weaker than she wanted. Trade restrictions, yes, but temporary ones. Travel bans, but only to certain zones. Nothing that would cripple humanity, nothing that would prevent them from doing exactly what they had done on Harem 4. The council had been embarrassed. They wouldn't forget it, but neither would anyone else. For the crew of the Sejong, the return home was complicated. They were heroes to the public. Their names were everywhere, news feeds, social media, conversations in bars and homes across human space. People wanted to shake their hands, buy them drinks, tell them they had done something incredible, but they were also criminals. They had violated galactic law. They had entered a quarantine zone, defied direct orders from the council, and broadcast classified information across the galaxy. The charges were serious. Life imprisonment was still on the table. Admiral Sungho worked behind the scenes to protect them. He called in favors, made deals, pulled strings that no one was supposed to know he had. In the end, the formal charges were quietly dropped. The crew was pardoned, their records cleared. But there were costs. Do Hyun's captain's license was revoked. He would never command a registered vessel again. Jisoo was blacklisted from military intelligence. No government agency would touch her. Taewoo's engineering certification was suspended, pending a review that everyone knew would never actually happen. And Mirai, who had just started her career, was told that no hospital in council space would hire her. They were free, but their old lives were over. 3 months after Harem 4, the crew gathered in a small bar on Earth. It was a quiet place, dim and warm, with wood paneling and old photographs on the walls. The kind of place where people came to think, or to hide, or to figure out what came next. They sat around a table in the back corner, drinks in front of them, not saying much at first. They had been together constantly during the mission, working, fighting, surviving. Now they didn't know what they were anymore. Tae-woo broke the silence. "So," he said, staring at his glass. "What do we do now?" No one answered right away. Do-yun looked at his crew. These people who had followed him into a quarantine zone and out the other side, who had given up their careers and their futures because they believed it was the right thing to do. "I've been thinking about that," he said slowly. "We can't work in council space anymore. No licenses, no certifications, no official standing. But," he paused, "there are places that aren't council space. Colonies out on the rim, independent stations, systems that never signed the treaties. Places where the rules are different," Jisoo said. "Places where people need help and can't get it through official channels." Tae-woo raised an eyebrow. "You want us to keep doing this? Flying into places we're not supposed to go, rescuing people we're not supposed to help?" "I want us to do what we're good at." Miri leaned forward. "The council will come after us. They'll say we're criminals, outlaws, threats to galactic stability." "They'll say that anyway," Do-yun said. "Might as well earn it." A small smile crossed Jisoo's face. "You're serious?" "We can't save everyone. We proved that on Harem 4, but we can save some, and maybe that's enough." He looked at them, one by one. "I can't order you to come with me. This isn't a mission, it's a choice. And it's probably going to get us killed eventually. But if you're in, I'm in." Silence. Then Tae-woo grinned. "I was going to get myself killed doing something stupid anyway. Might as well be something useful." Jisoo nodded slowly. "Someone has to keep you two from making too many enemies. Might as well be me." They all looked at Mire. She was the youngest, the one with the most to lose, the one who should have wanted a normal life with a normal career and normal problems. She picked up her glass. "I became a doctor to save people," she said. "That hasn't changed." Do-yun felt something warm in his chest. Pride, hope, the sense that even when everything falls apart, something new can grow from the pieces. "Then we're agreed," he said. He was about to say more when his communicator buzzed, a message from one of his contacts on the rim, a woman who ran supplies to colonies the council had forgotten about. He read it and felt his pulse quicken. "There's a colony in the Rethys system," he said. "Famine. Drought killed their crops 3 months ago, and they've been requesting aid ever since. The council says they're investigating, but nothing's coming." He looked up. "It's outside council jurisdiction. No laws against helping." Jisoo was already pulling up star charts on her datapad. "It's a 3-week journey. We'll need supplies, fuel, a plan for distribution." Tae-woo stood up. "I'll get the ship ready. Engines still need work, but they'll hold." Mire grabbed her med kit from under the table. "I'll contact the other doctors who volunteered after Harem 4. Some of them might want to come." Do-hyun watched them move, already working, already focused on the next problem, the next people who needed saving. This was who they were. This was what humans did. He thought about Elder Korath and the bonding stone that still sat in his pocket, warm and heavy. He thought about the children on Harem 4, alive now because strangers had refused to look away. He thought about the witness ships at the border and the cracks in the council's power and all the small changes that add up to big ones over time. The galaxy was vast and cold and full of suffering. The council controlled almost everything, and they didn't like being defied. The crew of the Sejong were outlaws now, hunted and hated by the most powerful institution in known space. But they were also free. Free to go where they were needed. free to help who they wanted to help, free to be the thing that humans had always been, even when the universe told them not to be. Stubborn, foolish, compassionate, alive. Do-hyun finished his drink and stood up. "Let's go," he said. They walked out of the bar together into the night toward the ship that would take them to the next place, the next people, the next chance to do something that mattered. Behind them, the door swung closed. Ahead of them, the stars were waiting.